Welcome to West USA Weekly, the podcast, your go-to source for everything real estate in Phoenix, Arizona. We're breaking down market trends, local insights, and the moves that matter most to Valley agents. Interviews, tips, and the latest from one of Arizona's top brokerages, all in one place. Let's dive in.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Monday morning edition of our podcast. Appreciate everybody joining us today. Let's take a sneak peek of what we got coming up today. So it's going to be a long day if I can't talk. All right, we got our mortgage minute update by the Frederick team. I'm going to share. I'm teaching on AI today, Nick.
That's scary.
I know. I want to share 3 ways I'm using AI. It's going to be great. And our designated broker, Duane Fouts, is going to stop by. And Todd's off today, but hopefully we'll get some slides uploaded later on this week. If you got any comments or questions, as always, please feel free to email us at podcast@westusa.com. All right, let's jump into the announcements. Everybody's always asking about our awesome tax strategist and our accountant. So she's going to come by the North Phoenix office this Wednesday from 11 to 12. Some great information on, she saves me a ton of money. We'll answer PLLC questions, tax strategies. So if you're interested in joining us, there is my email address. Just let us know so we can make sure that we have enough room for you. All right. Well, speaking of taxes, 1031 tax exchange class coming up March 31st from 10 to 11:30. Doug Blackwell is my 1031 tax exchange guy, my go-to guy. Yeah, he's fantastic. Yeah. So if you've never sat in or it's been a while since you've attended a 1031 tax exchange, highly encourage you to do it. And as always, all of our events can be found on the dashboard. And if you're not with West USA, you're always welcome to join us. All you got to do is just go to westusacalendar.com. All right. Well, speaking of AI, so we got a special class, AI for Real Estate, in the Chandler office coming up Wednesday from 11 to 12:30. So make sure you get signed up for that. Cancel. Oh, I didn't even look at this one. So, yeah. I don't even know what it is, but it's going to be a great class. So this is coming up Thursday, April 2nd from 1 to 4. So it's all about contracts and canceling contracts. And
3 hours of contract law. It looks like the CE class out in the Chandler office.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Nice. Great. Good. All right. I did a great job at promoting that one.
You did. Fantastic.
All right.
I'm proud of you.
All right. If you are not sure what Zillow Showcase is, please feel free to join us this Wednesday from 1 to 2. This is a virtual, so you want to scan that QR code if you want to learn more about the Zillow Showcase with Sam Horn from Zillow, of course. All right, zoning and entitlements. So everything that you need to know. This is going to be put on by Tom Wolf and Barney Gonzalez. So this is going to be a great, great class. Zoning, you need to know about zoning. That's all I can really say. Yeah. So this is coming up Wednesday from 10 to 11 a.m. in the Scottsdale office. So make sure you get signed up for that. And then Nick, how much time?
Last week, Friday is the deadline. We jumped up on the orders last week. Let's see if we can get another 15 or 20 orders before Friday. Get your custom West USA jersey with your name on the back. All final orders Friday end of day.
All right, and we have been talking about the survey. Everybody's been doing the West USA survey. Yep. I feel like it's rigged. I do it every year, and I never win anything. Nope. It's rigged, Justin.
I mean, I haven't heard anybody who's won.
I do record my when I hit the button on the random number generator just in case somebody goes after me about it. But we ran the numbers this morning. We did the random number generator for everybody who put in, and these were the 3 winners of the gas cards. Michelle Sarnosky up in the Pine Top office, Debbie Holsler at the Arrowhead office for the $150, and Abduali Dost out of the Goodyear office, $300 gas card. Debbie and Abduali, you'll get your cards in the run. Michelle, give me a little bit of time because I'm going to mail yours up to Pine Top.
All right, perfect.
Appreciate everybody taking their time. And,
I'm going up there in a couple weeks if you want me to take it up
Mike Weinstein's going to drive up your gas card.
Yeah, I'm going to use it. So there may not be anything left on it, but I will be up there in a couple weeks. All right, Justin, what's going on? Oh, God, these numbers are not looking great.
Yeah,
man.
So rates have definitely been increasing still with everything going on in the Middle East. Actually, today we opened up. We're looking good this morning. So I haven't been able to dive into it, but plus 42 on mortgage-backed securities. So that gave us about 1/8% on the improvement on the rate this morning. So it's good. But yes, you can see rates have definitely increased all the way around. We need to get through what's going on in the Middle East. All right, so today we're talking about the difference between PMI on a conventional loan and FHA MI. And the reason why we're talking about this is we keep having questions on why we're putting people into FHAs. I mean, we're having the conversations with the borrowers, but why FHA over conventional? So we're going to talk a little bit about each one of these, but conventional PMI is required when putting less than 20% down. Cost is based heavily on credit score and down payment, heavily on credit score. Cancelable once you reach 20% equity, and that's by HOPA rule. FHA mortgage insurance is required on all FHA loans. It also includes an upfront mortgage insurance premium of 1.75%. So it makes the product itself a little bit more expensive when dealing with FHA. However, the monthly MI or MIP is ongoing. It often stays in the loan for the life of the loan unless you put a large down payment or you go to a 15-year term on the initiation of the loan. So conventional is more flexible, long-term. FHA is easier approval, longer lasting costs. It's also more flexible on the credit scores, more forgiving. So the credit score impact on PMI versus FHA, conventional, high credit scores, highly credit sensitive, higher credit scores, lower PMI, lower scores, significantly higher monthly cost. And I should have actually put an example up here, but FHA, not credit sensitive. So you get the same MI whether you have a 500 credit score or an 800 credit score. That's the beauty of the product. You're not paying out the wazoo for monthly PMI. So it can, in a lot of cases, it makes way more sense to be in an FHA loan with 3.5% down rather than trying to get that 3% down conventional loan, even if you have like a 720 credit score. Example comparison, a 760 credit score on conventional PMI, very low, way cheaper than FHA. When I say way cheaper, if you have a 760 and you're putting 3% down, you're probably half the cost of an FHA. 620 credit score, conventional PMI, it's high, and FHA is more affordable. So this is the reasons why we're putting FHA. More FHAs are coming out. A couple years ago, FHA lowered that monthly premium. It used to be 0.85%. Now it's 0.55%. So dramatically reduced that by about a third. And so it basically made sense to put higher credit individuals back into FHA. So when conventional makes sense, credit scores are over 720. Buyers are planning to stay a long time. So even if you're below 700 and you're planning to stay a long time and rates are lower, we'll put you in a conventional loan. Want the ability to remove PMI, or obviously if you're putting a larger down payment down. When FHA makes sense, credit scores are less than 620, limited down payment, needs more flexibility on debt to income ratios. And what that really means is FHA has a higher tolerance for debt to income ratio, so we can go higher on the debt to income ratios and still get you the home that you want.
All right, I just think we should just get rid of mortgage insurance altogether. We should make it I find it unconstitutional.
It's against the Geneva Convention.
Yeah, something like that. All right, Justin, appreciate it. Good stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to hand me the keyboard.
Yeah, there you go, buddy.
I got little arms like Nick.
I just wanted to quickly congratulate ASU on making it to the NCAA tournament Final Four. It wasn't ASU. It was U of A that made it to the
You've been
NCAA
waiting all morning to
Final
say that
I actually
joke.
just thought of it. So I'm glad I got in before Justin jumped off the microphone. Yeah.
All right.
That's awesome.
Congrats to them.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I didn't even know that we were playing basketball right now. All right, let's get into our our 3-pack, Nick. Just you and I, just the two of us.
All
We're going
right.
to talk a little bit of AI. I bet you're excited about to see how I'm using AI.
I'm terrified.
All right, so these are just really simple, practical tools that I've been using it for. First is appliance labels. This is great because every time I'm showing a home, everybody wants to know how old the water heater is, how old the HVAC system is. I try to find that label. I look at the serial number, and I'm like, I don't have a clue. And I know I can't be the only one. So what I've been doing, and this has just been great, I just simply taking pictures of the labels, making sure that the serial numbers are as clear as possible. You don't need to get the entire label. All you need is that serial number. And then it's supposed to be Ask AI to tell you the year it was manufactured. So I take the picture, upload it to ChatGPT, go, what year is this HVAC system? Or what year is this a water heater? And then it starts telling me how to read the serial numbers. And that I'm still lost on. So I'll just ask it to just give me the make, model, and the year that it was manufactured. And if you do it on your phone, it can be really quick, really simple, and you get those answers for your clients instead of depending on asking the seller for that information because they often don't know. The listing agent doesn't often know. And now when you're taking a listing, now you can figure out how old these things are.
Yeah, I mean, you can use this specific task, I guess, for a lot of different things when it comes to appliances for your clients. Being able to run the serial number and then ask it for the most up-to-date manual for that product. You can provide a lot of that information to, well, your sellers if you're going to take a listing, but for your buyers, you can provide them a nice, neat, and with ChatGPT, you can share via like a file now, so a quick text, and here's all your appliances, here's all of the manuals that go with them. So it's just a nice additional thing that you can do that really does not take a lot of time. And if you're taking a listing or walking through a house as the agent, you probably should be doing that anyway, just having that in your phone, especially because, like you said, Mikey, it's 5 seconds to walk through and take a couple photos.
All right, second one is writing your listing descriptions. Not everybody is a great writer, and as you can tell, not all of us are good spellers. And so what I've been doing this for probably well over a year now, is I see, if the house was previously listed and on the MLS before, I'll actually just copy and paste that description, especially if I like it. Obviously, there might be some updates to the house, so I'm just going to start including bullet points into it. And then just, and I might, mention, hey, it's in this HOA, let ChatGPT figure out what's nearby and what types of things could be included in it. And then what I also love about it is because the MLS caps how many characters we can have in the public remarks. I can actually give it those instructions, keep it under 800 characters or whatever the case is, and then I can just massage it and see what I like and what I don't like. And then when I finally got a finished product, I'll throw it back in there and just say, hey, proofread this and make sure I've got what I need.
You should do that before you put your slides on. For freedom. When using the free version of any AI system and you're asking it to write descriptions for you, please make sure that you're just doing an extra set of due diligence with your own eyes, making sure that what it's spitting out to you is accurate data, especially when it comes to geographic questions. What's close? What's nearby? What restaurants, school systems? Double check all of that. The free versions have been known to just make stuff up to make it sound good, and you want to. The descriptions are a little bit different, so I'll be a little bit less harsh on the descriptions. You really do want your voice to come through, though, as you're still writing. So if you are using AI to write all of your texts, all of your emails, everything that you're putting out for your business, I think it becomes a detriment pretty quickly, because as you're having conversations over the phone, in person, you want your emails, your text to sound similar to that. You don't want to be very professional and polished and then not speak the same way when you're sending emails. But for descriptions, for sure, I would just double check.
All right. And then the third one is this one I just started doing. This is fantastic, is reviewing offers.
I love that Duane's sitting here as you're...
Yeah, my next question is going to be, how's Duane using AI? But I tested this a couple times because one, I wanted to see whether it worked. I wanted to see how accurate it was. Oftentimes I'm taking a purchase contract. I'm going, when I'm about to present an offer, going through all of it, making my bullet points, my highlights, so that, and I typically like to email that to my seller ahead of time before we jump on the phone or we meet in person. And this was the prompt I used. This is an Arizona real estate purchase contract. I represent the seller. Provide me a bullet point list of terms to present to the seller. And it was spot on. It didn't miss anything. It didn't make any mistakes, and it was just put together where you could just literally copy and paste it. But again, to your point, Nick, and I know what Duane's going to say, is review it and make sure that everything is accurate. But it just put it into a presentable way that I could send over to my seller and save me. Well, I mean, I've been testing it, but saved me a great deal of time. And I love this one.
I'm going to jump in before I think Duane has probably something to say, maybe not. But
I picked the wrong day to talk about AI.
I also have a couple others. I know we kind of moved this pretty quickly, so I had a couple other things that I would recommend. But for this one specifically, the use of being able to provide a nice presentation to your client, that is a great call. Having it double check the contract is where I get a little bit nervous, and I'm sure Duane would agree, but you said it. You double-checked everything. You made sure it was accurate, but it does very much a really good job of creating a nice presentation and how you is there something you want to prioritize that, or you just want a clean walkthrough of what the offer is so I can walk through it with my clients. That's a very nice thing to do, and it, again, levels up your business. It makes it look more professional and polished, so I do like that aspect of it. It just still is a little scary because AI is known, especially when you're using the free version. The paid version is not as bad, but you definitely want to double check. It forgets stuff. It leaves stuff out, and you constantly have to clarify, what about this? And it goes, oh, you're right. Sorry, I missed that. Great catch. You're like, what? That was a big thing that you just forgot about including AI.
You're like a chat hater today.
I've been using AI in a lot of different capacities and different things for real estate, for personal life, for a lot of different stuff, and it is very helpful, but you can't depend on it to remember things. And so as you're adding documents and then you're trying to ask it questions based on that document, you need to kind of treat it like it's 5. So I uploaded the document and we had this conversation.
That's how we treat you.
100%. That's why I'm so good at my job. You just remind it what you had already talked about, and it will come back with better resources. But it's very, very handy to help speed through monotonous tasks, but you still need to have your realtor brain. The one thing I want to just mention, there was a big, I'll say hullabaloo, if I could, about an individual who sold their $1 million property only using ChatGPT. And it was a big deal, and it made the rounds on the social media and all the things. Well, what they left out of the story, because it makes it less fun, is that this was an attorney who was very versed in contracts and real estate in his state. And it was a FSBO. So he was selling his own home using AI with his lawyer knowledge, and he still had attorneys view through all of the contract paperwork. So for someone to say that he saved a lot of time and energy and work, okay, but he still had to pay for attorneys. He was an attorney in his own right, and he used AI just to basically do what you just said, listing description and taking some photos. So I don't know if everyone got real concerned because that was the headline, is real estate agent being replaced by AI. It's not in the slightest. But anyway,
Duane,
well, look, AI is a tool, right?
Yep.
And that's all it is. And you should understand what offer, what your seller is looking for, and what you need to point out to them. So it's just a tool, and use it as a tool.
Yep.
Don't use it to replace your brain. And so I love the idea that AI is coming into our world, but I don't think we need to give away all of our responsibilities, right, to that little tool.
The things that I've been seeing agents, so sorry, Duane, the things that I've been seeing agents utilize and what I've been playing with is taking your book of business. Where have your transactions come the last 6 months, the last 12 months? Where did they come 12 months ago? Where are they coming from in the last 6 months? As the market moves on us, being able to see where our business is moving to or not moving is important. And so it will analyze data at a very high rate. And so that's one of the very nice nice things that it does, and that's looking at what your business is doing for you. It catches things that you might not see or things that you might not think are important metrics. And again, the better and the more data you give it, the better your response is going to be from that system.
And the way you prompt it has a whole lot to do with what kind of output you get, right?
Right.
And it's no different than when you're talking to a broker, right? The questions you ask are going to result in the answers that are dictated. So if you don't prompt AI with the right question, you're going to get an answer that may not be appropriate, right? So
some of the things that we've done recently as we've been testing it out is we had some friends who were wanting to paint a couple rooms. They just had a baby and they were trying to figure out what colors they wanted to put on the walls. And so I walked in and they had their color patches sitting on the ground. I took a picture of each one and then I took a picture of the wall, and AI quickly spit out what the walls would look like, what the room would look like. We were able to take some pictures of the furniture, so it was able to superimpose all of that. And so they got to actually make a better informed decision. And so as you're walking through buyers with a house, especially if you've got that one that's, I don't like the paint. Well, okay, cool. Unless here's a quick photo, we can put whatever paint you want in there. And those are easy things that you can use the AI system for that will help benefit when you're trying to have visual conversations with people.
Go ahead.
Realtors are going to carry now a paint palette with them they can show in homes. They can put a paint
that'd
You
be
don't
awesome.
even need the paint palette. You go to Lowe's.com, look at the paint swatches, take a screenshot, and upload it into the room.
All right. So outside of reading appliance labels, just ignore everything I've said today, and you're going to be good. But I'm still doing it, and it's working.
No, and I think these are great tools to use. It's easy stuff, and that's what agents don't think about, is that there's a lot of assistant stuff that ChatGPT and AI can do. Play with it. I mean, use it in your business as much as you can. The labels on appliances is definitely something that saves a lot of time that people just don't think about. You do have a much more disposal with this tool than we ever have. It's just how you use it, and just be careful because, as you said, it's a tool.
It's a very big tool, and just it's going to play into our world for a long time in the future. Just learn how to use it, but don't quit thinking.
Yeah. No, it's not going anywhere. So,
right.
All right, Duane, appreciate you taking some time and joining us today. And of course, my son's going to call. He calls me every single Monday morning during this Christmas.
We're talking about AI. He knows.
Well, he knows. Yeah.
Come on it.
All right. So, a lot of stuff to go over, but most of us got the announcement last week about a district judge in Texas found FinCEN to be unconstitutional. And I think the operative term here is, so it's just on pause right now.
That's correct. Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, FinCEN is a effort by the federal government to curb money laundering in the real estate world. And
because I was looking for other creative ways to launder my money, and
good,
but now I'm back.
Well, there's a wash machine in the dryer. Just throw it in there and launder it.
I asked ChatGPT. Okay, now that FinCEN's a law, how do I launder my money?
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
I know, but anyway, so. And yet there was a lot of hoopla about when that was going to go into effect and what the results were. From a real estate perspective, all we need to know is talk to our client, say this is a law that went into place. It's now on hold. We don't have any, as a realtor or a licensee, we have no responsibility for any of the reporting or none. That's all done at the title company level for the most part. Mm-hmm. And so we just have to inform them that if they're in certain situations, they may have to comply with this FinCEN once it becomes adjudicated through the court system.
And I'm predicting it will. I mean, it's some form. They got to go back because in its current condition, it's found unconstitutional. It's not like the government's going to go, oh, it's unconstitutional, so let's just forget this idea.
Correct. Yes, that is very true. And so it'll get adjudicated through the system, and at some point, some version of it will likely be in our world. And all we have to do is educate our client enough to know that, hey, we may have to participate with it, but try not to go into deep details on it because there's so many moving parts. It's not our role.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So Kyle wanted us to talk about this, the seller-originated offers, and for instance, a lot of this would be used when you have an unrepresented buyer.
That's the only time.
Yeah, exactly.
But who's Kyle? Oh, I guess I know who he is.
Yeah, I hope so.
Seller originated sales. So this is an effort that we struggled with for a long time. When this new buyer broker, I guess can't really call it new anymore, but when the buyer broker agreement became an obligation that we had to do, especially like in open houses and situations, sign calls where the party that's interested in the property was not represented. How do we handle that? And we went through a bunch of gyrations in the industry, and the latest version now is when an unrepresented buyer comes to that property and shows an interest in doing it, how does the listing agent handle that? AAR and their attorneys came together with the what they call a seller-originated offer. And I know that's a hard concept for a lot of people to wrap their heads around, and it's not perfect, but it's what the industry is using now. So when that buyer expresses an interest, the seller can actually, through the listing agent, draft an offer to present to the seller. There's a form that's 2 different provisions on the additional clause addendum that needs to be attached to that seller-originated offer. The additional clause addendum is line 70 and line 85. Both need to be checked. And they deal with the time for acceptance when the buyer has to review that offer and respond to it. And they also deal with notifications. Those 2 paragraphs deal with the notifications and how, when notices are given out to either party, who gets those. When the buyer is unrepresented, the notice has got to go to the buyer, right? Not to their agent. So that form is very, very important to it. The process is a little bit cumbersome.
Are we talking about a separate offer, like a separate contract, or still using the regular real estate purchase contract with the additional clause addendum?
It's the same residential resale purchase contract, and it's just the
I was going to say, I didn't know how that one slipped by me, that we got a whole brand new contract.
No, it's the same contract. It's just originated from the seller to the buyer versus vice versa. So, and with those 2 provisions in the additional clause addendum, it works. Typically, there will be some conversation with that buyer. This is what I want to offer. This is my down payments and so forth. But technically, the way it's supposed to work is the seller can make whatever offer they want to the buyer, and then the buyer would review that. Where the challenge comes in is if the buyer doesn't like what the seller sent to him, how does the buyer counteroffer? Well, in our traditional world, we have the counteroffer form that we can originate. But you're not supposed to share those documents with a non-realtor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are trademarked and copyrighted to the realtor world. So the way the attorneys have advised us as brokers is if that seller originates an offer to the buyer and the buyer chooses that they don't like that, they want to modify the terms, you have to start all over. And basically that first offer goes away and you draft a subsequent offer from the seller to the buyer. And you keep doing that process over and over again until you get to an agreement, which is like I said, it's not perfect, but that's the way it works. And and I can tell you, we've had success in doing it. We've had agents that have done, surprisingly, a number of.
So now you're making me want to do dual agency.
And I get it.
No, I'm just kidding.
And I get it. I mean, that's not something we recommend as a single agent, dual agent. But yeah, I get it. And it's just one of those things that you have to weigh the benefits versus.
Right.
A lot of buyers are unrepresented by choice, right? They think they want to be able to negotiate a better deal than they can. They don't want to have to sign that buyer broker agreement and agree to pay their agent. So it works. The first time you do it as an agent, when you're on the listing side, it's a little bit of a challenge to wrap your mind around it. So reach out to your broker team.
How much am I permitted to question the buyer of, like, okay, what type of loan are you getting? What type of earnest money are you thinking? What type of down payment are you thinking?
I don't have a problem with you asking those kind of questions because they are important to their information you can relay to your seller. It doesn't mean that that's what the seller has to put on their offer when they send it to the buyer, right? It's just like a buyer's agent questioning you as a listing agent. What's the seller looking for? What's important to them? What do they want, right? similar type of thing. So that's it. But you're going to run into that every once in a while. So reach out to us and we'll help you through it.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about and what you sent over these are like the questions that the broker hotline
Yes.
and are popular questions you guys are getting, and
Correct, yeah.
and this is statewide. This is just not West USA.
This is mostly West USA stuff.
Okay.
It is mostly West USA stuff. And by the way, AI is what helped me come up with these. We, as you know.
Oh, I'm back. All right.
So, when an agent calls into the broker support line, you'll get a little prompt that says AI is taking notes. That's for this purpose. We use those notes to kind of know where our agents are having questions, where they're having, and how we can help schedule some of our training and so forth. So.
All right, so let's talk about buyer-broker agreements and compensation. So what does an agent do if the buyer has already signed a buyer-broker agreement with another agent? I'm just assuming that, there's a lot of different ways that you can take it. I mean, I could have them sign a buyer-broker agreement with the understanding that they might be paying two agents, and if they're okay with that, that's okay. But I can't be giving them instructions on how to cancel the buyer-broker agreement with the other agent. You don't want to not have this discussion and have them sign one with you, and then they don't know the potential ramifications. So,
Right. Well, I'll tell you the reality of it is, a lot of times there's a couple of scenarios. One of them is the client comes to you and says, hey, I'm not happy with my agent and I want to work with you. And, one of the first questions most agents will ask is, well, are you working with somebody? Well, yes, I'm not happy with them. So the question shouldn't be, are you working with somebody? The question should be, have you signed an exclusive employment agreement with another realtor? The reason that that's important is because we have we're going to talk about a little bit of buyer-broker agreement to show property, right? And that's not an exclusive agreement. So if a person comes to you and says, yes, I've signed a exclusive agreement, it's pretty much hands-off at that point. You really cannot ask them to sign a buyer-broker agreement, and even if they're willing to pay you, potentially two different commissions, the reason is your code of ethics. Code of ethics says you cannot work with somebody who is under an exclusive agreement, both listing side and buy side. So that would be a violation. If you know that they've signed an exclusive agreement with another agent, you got to be hands off until that either gets canceled or expired.
Okay.
One or the other. If the client doesn't know what they've signed, say, yeah, maybe I signed something, I don't know what it was. You got to go with the idea that was an exclusive agreement. Hands off until you can find out for sure what kind of an agreement it was they signed, and if it isn't exclusive, they have to work with their agent and their agent's broker to resolve that before you can get involved.
And so what I typically do in these situations, now I'm telling you what I do, so is say, okay, I appreciate that. You don't know exactly what you signed. Send me over what you signed and let me review it and tell you what you signed.
Yeah, and that you can do that. And the only thing you can't do is when they ask you, well, how do I get out of this? You got to say, I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. You have to go to your agent and their
that's
broker.
what I say.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the way. The next question that we're going to talk about is that showing agreement, the buyer-broker agreement to show. If it's a buyer-broker agreement to show, that's not an exclusive agreement, and you do have the right to be able to work with them, to have them sign either an exclusive agreement or another buyer-broker agreement to show. So it depends on that document.
Yeah.
What that document is as to how you're going to proceed, So it's don't automatically assume that you can go to work for them. Automatically assume that you can't until you figure out what they've got.
All right, and then obviously, can I proceed if they say the prior agreement doesn't matter? Their opinion on it doesn't matter.
Correct. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, the fact that the client says that they want you to proceed anyway, don't buy into that. It's a problem waiting to happen, and so, yeah.
Question in the chat from an agent is: can the agent that's having a conversation with the client ask for what they have signed already? So can they see
Yeah,
it?
that's what I said. Yeah.
You can do that, absolutely. Once you review it, if it's an exclusive agreement, you just got to take hands-off approach.
All right. So this next one, do buyers risk owing to agents? So let's just say I fail to ask you if you've signed something, okay? And then I have you sign a buyer-broker agreement and then proceed, get into contract, and have a closing. Now, I know that my bad for not asking you, but in that situation, do buyers risk the possibility of owing to commissions? Or does the original buyer-broker agreement trump mine?
No. The buyer actually risks two different compensations to two different brokers. In fact, we've collected on one of those where we were the first buyer-broker agreement. The client went off, signed a different one with a different agent, closed on a deal, and we actually collected for the first guy. So it happens, but your point about you failed to ask, that's technically a code of ethics violation. We are required by our realtor code to ask, are you under an exclusive employment agreement? So,
Okay.
Yep.
All right, boy, we all love post-possession and possession timings and so forth.
Yep.
Is the post-possession period acceptable for you?
You know, I'll be honest with you. For 40 years or thereabouts as a broker, I always had a opinion that pre-possession and post-possession were a problem waiting to happen, right? And nothing good could come out of them. And there are some horror stories, just like in any real estate transaction. But at the end of the day, when COVID come around and the market really heated up and the sellers wanted those post-possessions for the most part, we modified our stance on it and produced a document that's a short-term post-possession agreement. And I can tell you that we have not had any significant problems. Few problems, but nothing real significant. So the answer to your question, is the post-possession period acceptable? Yes, it is. And I'm still surprised at how many of them I see in today's market. You know, it's more of a balanced market, not tipped heavily towards the seller, but yet we're still having buyers give a post-possession to the seller when we're on either side of the deal.
So then is there a maximum, allowable days? Because it can become very tricky, one, at what point do we need a lease agreement as opposed to our post-possession agreement? And then what do the HOAs say about short-term?
Yep.
Because now you have a lease agreement for less than said period of time, and the HOA catches wind, and that could be problematic.
Yes, it can. Yeah, and so it is a balancing act. There is no doubt about it. And when we drafted our short-term post-possession agreement, we had obviously consulted with our attorneys. And we capped that at 90 days. So up to 90 days, we can use that short-term post-possession agreement. Anything over that, we are recommending that you go into a lease agreement. Part of that has to do with lender requirements as well, because oftentimes the buyer has to take possession within a certain period of time, not to be in violation of their if they're doing an owner-occupied financing, right? So part of it has to do with lending. Part of it has to do with HOA stuff. So we just picked 90 days. Is that a magic number? No, not really. But it's where we think we can defend it from a contractual standpoint, easy enough to be that. So, but I will tell you, most post-possession agreements are less than 30 days, about 30 days.
And I want to emphasize, I love page 8 of the contract. you can do all kinds of
Yeah,
very creative stuff.
You can.
But I don't think that page 8 is the place to negotiate the terms of post possession.
Correct. No.
And it's important for our agents to understand we have a post possession document on the dashboard.
We do. And, oftentimes I'll see in offers where there is a counter offer that comes back and says, so seller wants a post-possession agreement. That's fine, and they try to outline some terms in a counter offer as well, and that's not so good. If you're not able to negotiate that terms of that post-possession during your the initial offer, in other words, it wasn't submitted as part of the initial offer, let's just put language in that counteroffer or the initial offer that says that the terms of the offer is contingent upon the buyer and seller entering into a post-possession agreement during the due diligence period.
Yeah.
So we've got that 10-day window to negotiate that that possession, and that contingency. Then, if they aren't able to come to terms, that contingency fails and the contract goes away.
All right, and then the last one. So we do a 30-day. Post-possession, and both parties realize it's going to need another 15 days. Is that simply fixed with an addendum?
Yeah, you could do it that way.
And are we still involved as far as agency goes?
I'd like to say no, but probably so.
Okay.
Yeah, we probably have to be involved with that to a certain degree. Where we're not going to be involved is in disputes between buyer and seller when the move out happens and so forth. That's between them.
All right, file cleanup. All right, so let's just say we've got issues with names and check boxes and so forth. But this is an interesting question. So if title clears it, do we still need an addendum?
So here's the thing. From a audit perspective, as a broker from the Department of Real Estate, when they come and do an audit of us, they're going to ask to probably pull 100 of our files, just random files, right? And so one of the things they're going to look for is the settlement statement versus the contract. And when the names don't match, our staff is reviewing that, and unfortunately we don't get paperwork on it until we get the settlement statement, and it's John and Joe Smith bought the property as the buyers in here. But at the closing, it was XYZ LLC because we don't have anything that says why is XYZ the buyer on this property, or vice versa. The seller is John and Joe Smith, and the seller is now the trust of John and Joe Smith, right? And so those have to match. And isn't it the fact that the title company cleared that means they have some documentation that allowed them to do that. We just need a copy of that documentation. Yeah. And sometimes an addendum is going to be necessary, but to me, it would be rare that would be the situation.
Well, and so it's interesting. Just like I was helping an agent with their first contract over the weekend, and names popped up because I go, well, what we have to do is for the buyers. I simply I go by what's on the PQ. Okay. The lender's done their due diligence. And you know, you may know the person is Joey, but I'm not putting Joey on the contract unless the PQ says Joey.
Sure.
And then on the flip side, I can't depend on the listing agent putting the right information. So I'm simply on the seller creating a contact in there, and I'm going. The only thing I can go by at this point is what's in Monsoon.
Right, what's in the tax record, and so. And that's fair enough, and I know that's how we get to where we're at when we have a discrepancy. But just understand that we need to get them matched up somehow between the settlement statement and that. And I know it's a pain, and I know it's not something that happens early in the transaction. It's usually last minute
right.
after it's already closed, and it's a pain. So we work with you as best as we can, but just know and understand that this is basically because of the auditing process of the Department of Real Estate.
All right, so I've got a listing and it cancels.
Yep.
And now the seller wants to relist with me.
Okay.
can I revive? I mean, I know the answer, but can I revive it with an addendum? Can I just use the same old stuff that I've had? And I would say about the only thing that you can use are the pictures.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, you're going to get a new MLS number. You're going to have to do all new listing documentation, and so whenever there's a cancellation, that terminates that whole agreement. So you can't revive it with just an addendum.
I've done this once. Very embarrassing, but way back, I lost track of the listing expiration date, and woke up the next day going, okay, my listing expired yesterday.
Yep.
In today's current rules and so forth, can I in that point revive it with some sort of addendum, or I'm now starting brand new?
Our policy is you're going to start brand new.
And good luck having that conversation with your client, your seller.
Your client, yeah.
And it didn't go well with me.
It probably did. And I've got one this weekend as well, where the opposite happened. The agent had a conversation with their seller, getting ready to expire. Do you want to extend it? Yeah, well, we'll extend it. Great. She jumped on the MLS, extended it in MLS, but didn't do any kind of paperwork on our side. Didn't do any signed listing addendum for that extension. And all of a sudden, she's asking her TC for another extension. And it's expired back in January, end of December. Well, how come we're doing an extension of a listing that's already expired 3 months ago? Oh no, it didn't expire, and so now we got to go back and try to resolve that. So you cannot use the old agreement. Anytime it's canceled, it is what it is.
All right.
So,
hold on. Back up. All right. Disclosures, forms, and approved tools.
Yeah.
All right. So I know what Breeze is. I'm personally, I don't like it.
Okay.
And it's just me personal preference.
Yep.
It takes me a lot longer personally when I'm selling my own property than just printing out
a blank
the
form.
spuds
Yep.
and
Yep.
and just
Yep.
handwriting and so forth.
Sure. Yeah, and that's fair enough. And that Breeze is basically a online software through SkySlope that AAR has authorized for realtors to use when sellers want to use an electronic procedure to fill out the SPDS. So you can access Breeze through your AAR online process. It works fine. It's not as I'm kind of with you. I'd rather print it out and
I can
and
skip
do it.
stuff.
What? But at the end of the day, if you do have clients that would rather do it electronically, that service is available. It is locked down very tightly, so only the owners would have access to being able to fill out the questionnaire on the SPDS. That's the beauty of it. If you just send it over to them in a fillable PDF, anything could happen there. So that's why Breeze is in place for that. So, yeah, you can use it.
All right.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
All right. Well, we got a little bit of time, but anything else you want to talk about, or let's just go get a cocktail early?
Yeah, we might be able to go get a cocktail. I mean, look, I am really proud of our agents and how they're performing. Our company's doing well. We're looking forward to our awards thing coming up this week, right? So we'll all be there. And
all right, well, that leads to another question.
Uh-oh.
Anything on the horizon that we as agents don't know about that could impact our business? For instance, like the SCA and the lawsuit and all that. Is there something that's on the horizon that we may not be privy of that would benefit?
Probably. There's always something on the horizon. I will tell you that the buyer broker agreement issue was all over a litigation that happened on the seller side of a transaction. There is a movement for a class action thing on the buyer side. It's not getting much traction, but there is still that potential out there that there could be another round of litigation against the industry for compensation issues. So that how that'll play out. Personally, I don't think it's going to go very far, but I'm not a lawyer, so I don't get to do that. There's some changes at the MLS level. For those who don't know, Matt Consalvo, our CEO, has announced his retirement.
Oh.
So he'll be replaced. He's given the organization about a year and a half until he'll be 2027 sometime. He'll be out, I believe.
Is that the job you said you were applying for, Nick?
That was a secret, Mikey.
Not anymore.
Yeah. And the Armless Board of Directors is in the process of doing a complete makeover and change. So they are now going to have a board consisted of mostly a fiduciary board is what it's going to be called, that will be responsible for the operations of the Armless entity. And then they'll have and the current board of directors will be moved off into a advisory role. Part of the issues around all that was, the lawsuits that came through on this had allegations in them that said that you have a bunch of competitors sitting around the board of directors table making rules against, that are all competitors in the marketplace and making rules that could be antitrust in nature. And so to alleviate some of those concerns, we've moved away from, or they will be moving away from, the current structure of the board of directors to one that is now with won't be able to have a license in Arizona, and you'll be in the real estate space, but you won't be that. So how that plays out, I don't know. I think it's going to be positive. I supported it, so I think it will be good. I think the organization running as a more of a business type organization is good. So yeah. But those are a couple of things locally that I know that are happening, and I'm sure there's more.
Right.
All
right.
It's always a moving target.
All right, Duane, appreciate it as always. Great stuff, and I'll leave you with the quote of the day: "Courage is fear. Mastery is fear, not absence of fear." Mark Twain. Appreciate everybody joining us. Go out and sell a home.